right. Hey, good Saturday morning, everyone. Man, Dave, you got me all fired up here and messed up and you name it. Hey, welcome everyone to Fresh Black Coffee. I'm Eddie, Dave, and we have got a special guest today, Mr. John Cox.
Even give him a little more camera.
Yes, yeah. We see this part of John Cox.
That's all of John.
That's all of John.
Well, because John, you've trimmed down. You look great.
What? That's right. I saw him last week at this breakfast, right?
Yeah.
And I look and he said, "Hey," and I'm looking and I'm thinking, wait a minute. And then it finally hit me who it was. How much have you lost?
I've lost 60.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. See, that's what I was thinking because I seem to remember you looking older before, you know, and you're like, it was just totally different. I'm trying to, who is that? It's, oh, it's John Cox.
We're at the state convention and he says, "Hey, Dave." I'm like, I know you. Didn't I?
Yes.
No, that happens a lot, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
Good for you. I need to take some notes and
well, it's hard to get up and down off the ground when you're playing with your grandkids. So that was an incentive.
How many you got?
I have six grandkids and 2 under the age of 1.
Nice.
So yeah, we just love them.
Oh yeah,
love our babies.
Yeah. For those of you that aren't familiar, John has run for the state superintendent of education a couple of times, the last couple of times. And John says 3rd time's the charm.
It is.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So we're looking forward to that. And that's why he's here with us today. So we start the program off with educational focus. So anyway, I wanted to ask you, so your prayer breakfast, or not prayer, it's definitely not prayer breakfast, but your breakfast you went to today, was it as full as it was last week?
Almost as full. Yeah, it's the McGrath breakfast is a really good place to
John
be.
McGrath, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Great guy.
You betcha.
100% supports me, so I'm proud of that. So I'll say that right.
That makes him a good guy.
It
yeah.
does. It does.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, was there a special guest today?
Yes, one of the governor candidates, Mike Mazie.
Oh, sure. Mike's been here today.
Yeah.
Hey, also. I mean, he
did a great job.
Yeah, a few months ago he was here.
Yeah.
Very personable.
Right. Oh, yeah. For full disclosure, I've talked about this before. I'm actually a part of his campaign now. Oh. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I mean, his dad, Jim, has been a friend to your campaign last summer for city council. Right.
And he's been a friend we've been friends now probably 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a good guy. James Mazie worked for what's called, what is it? AFCEA, Air Force Satellite, something in communications. It's some Air Force as a civilian.
Right.
They deal with satellite. He tells me about this different technology they're working on, stuff that just blows your mind. And I actually had breakfast. I would have come, but I went to a different breakfast and with Jim Bridenstine.
Okay.
And that was interesting. Boy, we had some talks. Man, that thing went all over the place. We were talking about life on other planets. And I mean, like I said, it was far from political. We were talking life on other planets, new technologies that he's aware of and things that none of it top secret, but things he's been working on. So it's always interesting meeting with Jim.
Yeah.
And another gentleman, a couple of gentlemen. Yeah, actually, there were probably 4 and a half. One of the guys brought his son, so it was fun. But yeah, it's good. It gives me an excuse for getting up early.
There you go.
On Saturdays. Yeah. Otherwise, I'd be asleep until I come into here, you know. And my wife's out of town. She comes back today. Yay! She's been visiting daughter and grandkids in California, and so I'm glad to have her back. But we are very happy to welcome into the studio once again one of our candidates for the superintendent of education for the state of Oklahoma. And John, so how have things been other than your weight loss? How have things been since the last time you ran? And so what are you doing? Are you still a superintendent in Peggs? So
Yeah,
you still have your same job.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've finished 31 years. I'm going into 32 years as a school superintendent there.
Mhm.
This will be my 40th year in public education.
So the school district there,
40 years. Wow.
the school district, the Board of Education, those are your boss.
They are, absolutely.
And they've kept you around for over your fourth decade now.
I'm very humbled about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Absolutely. They're good people, good community people. And that's what I love about my school, where it's all about community and family.
Yeah.
And it's just, they've taken great care of me. So I have a win, and they would love for me to be in this position in the state superintendent, but they would also love for me to be there.
Well, John, as much as I'd like to talk to you, I'd kind of like to talk with them about you.
Oh, yeah.
Are any of them helping your campaign?
Well, they have busy lives because they're business people.
Sure.
And, and they have their jobs. So, and it's my job to take care of them and kind of be their arms.
I agree, because their job is to hold you accountable in your current position.
It is.
And I've seen that happen before, where it kind of corrupts their first duty. They're elected by the community to make sure you're doing it right.
Oh, yeah. And I work for them.
Yeah.
I mean, at their pleasure.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you. So as far as Peggs, how large is your district?
we have about 175 students now, and we probably lost about 20 in the last couple of years. And we see that everywhere across rural Oklahoma. Schools are just losing kids, and we're not sure where they're going. But yeah, we're that size, and we're typical. You know, there's probably about 200 to 250 schools our size across the state.
You think some of these satellite programs like EPIC, the homeschool, the new age homeschools, is that putting a dent in some of your?
I think like EPIC, for instance, they come and go. And so we see a lot of them coming back to us, and we work with those kids to get caught back up. But you know, for a certain population, EPIC and those type of charter schools are just absolutely great for those families.
Right.
And I'm a homeschool proponent. I think that's probably the highest level of education you can get when your parent is 100% involved in your education.
Right.
It's
You just got a whole bunch more votes.
Oh,
right there.
Well, no,
but I believe that though.
No, I'm a homeschool all the way through.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, I tell you, here's my question: is during COVID, when it really shut down a lot of things, how did it affect your district? And did you utilize home base in your ongoing education then?
It was extremely tough. And as soon as we could get back into face-to-face, we did that. And then we even tried to stay, because there was a year after that where people were trying to get back in, and we just jumped right back in because we could see the value of a teacher right in front of the child. Most children need that teacher right in front of them, you know? And so, and I could see the debate that the legislature was having this year about, you know, should we just give them 2 virtual days? And because virtual days, for the most part, you know, I would rather have a snow day and let the kids have fun. And instead of trying to put something on them to corral them at their house to do instruction. And I'd rather have them right there with us.
What is the, where is your district? What towns?
Sure.
Besides Peggs, I mean, what areas?
We're north of Tahlequah, and northern Cherokee County.
Okay.
We have about 86 square miles. And I describe that as hills and dirt roads. And we have Highway 82 that comes right through us. But mostly creeks and streams and water. And,
wow.
Good deer hunting.
Sounds like a nice place to live.
Yeah, lots of deer. Yeah. It's a beautiful place to be.
You know, to get back to you, Dave, on the situation, I think I'm more like John. To me, one size does not fit all.
Exactly.
And you have children that, not just children, adults that distance learning, they're very good at it. But you have some that, like you said, have to have a teacher, someone there face to face, see what they're doing constantly, and encourage them, different things. Plus you have the factor of the socialization of being around other kids as you grow up. That's a very important part of growing up in life. That your friends. You know, we talked earlier about some of my exploits in Philadelphia and the fighting. Yeah. And you told me that you never had that because you grew up around friends. Yeah. And so many people, rural areas tend to have more of that the camaraderie among kids. Family, yeah, family, right. And the camaraderie.
And there's accountability in a community like that you don't get in Tulsa, where you screw up. Maybe your parents didn't see you, but Jimmy's parents did, and your dad.
Well, and I have grandparents who were my students.
Yeah,
that have kids, so there's some accountability through their families for that.
Yeah, what you're saying, Eddie, about the structured, formal is one of the components, one of the things that works. Ben Harris and I were talking. He's one of the founders of Epic. Yes. He said there is a childcare component to public education, and you can't get around it. Some people, especially with single parent families, maybe you don't have grandpa and grandma who can watch the kids and teach them or whatever. There's a lot of kids that need somebody watching them.
Yeah. We, when Epic first started, I was fortunate enough to be in on the ground floor right from day one. And what we did, we were able to set up which wasn't allowed yet. We're kind of pioneers. But what we did, we found a church in North Tulsa that set up a whole area, two stories of their building, just for education. So it was like Epic on a location. And they had like 30 kids from K through 12.
So blended.
It was
That's
blended.
what Epic calls it, blended. Yeah.
Right. And we were constantly having to fight to try. Gary Stanislawski, former state senator, Gary Stanislawski, he was instrumental in pushing that to where now it's allowed. Back then they were fighting us tooth and nail. And in fact, Keith Ballard, who was the superintendent at the time, he made them shut it down because it wasn't officially accepted by state law at the time. And in North Tulsa, in that community, for example, I couldn't believe these numbers, but there were 2,000 children truant every day that don't have a place. And so what we were doing is providing a place where they could come. And I remember when it first started, I just went like, oh man, this is terrible. This is awful. These kids couldn't even, he instituted some of what we used to do, a child would have to get up and give current events. They do a Pledge of Allegiance and you could tell these kids were just so unused to doing anything like that. It was really hard. Yeah. And most of them, you talk to them, what are you doing? What are you learning here? Well, I don't really know, in front of a computer. The kids were out. Well, that was in September. In March of the next year, that same school year, but in March, total transformation. These kids were into their workstations, and then they would get together. And what really blessed me was I think about a 4th or 5th grade class I happened to go into. And you had this group of kids all around one of the children was at the workstation, and the others were all around him. And they were solving a problem. They were solving it together. And then I asked one young man, what do you like about it? He said, I feel safe. This was like a 12-year-old kid. I feel safe. He came out of the McLean area up there in North Tulsa. And sure enough, that kid's brother got shot like a couple of weeks later. And Keith Ballard at that time forced him to shut it down. And to her credit, Janet Barisi was the superintendent at that time. Right. And she said, okay, we're going to do it, but we're not going to do it in the middle of the semester. We're going to let these kids finish it out.
Continuity.
And then next year they'll have to go back. So, but anyway, it was really heartbreaking to me to see something that was so transformative to, be shut down like that. But at the same time, Dave and I have talked about this before. I am a very staunch public school support. In fact, I made my, no, well, I can't, it sounds harsh. I strongly encouraged my children to go to public school versus a private Christian school that they had been attending. And although my wife, she was all, no, we got to send them to this. And my feeling is this, and we're going to give you all the time you want. I'm not hogging your time. No, John's sitting over there.
I got you.
He's hogging mine.
Yeah. Keeping him off the air. No, but my feeling is this. If children are in public school and they're raised properly, have a good family home and everything, and they see children that don't, they can, especially in a Christian situation, you can say, well, they don't have Jesus, or they don't have a godly upbringing, a good environment, okay? But when you're in a supposedly godly environment, a Christian school or something, and those kids, teachers, parents are just jerks and are just make it miserable for the students, then it actually turns the kids against everything.
It does.
And so that was always my feeling. That's the only reason I felt like that. And so anyway, my kids all graduated from public school, Union High School, and have all been very successful. So just so everybody knows, I am very much a supporter of public schools. I'm not anti-private schools, but they don't work for everybody.
Yep. Just like phonics doesn't work for everybody.
Right.
I mean,
But we need to make our public schools better.
Right.
We need to improve. And just the engagement that you talked about with those children and a sense of belonging, that is so important. But, I think in our school, I try to just model Christ. I try to have people see that in me.
Yeah.
Instead of beating it down somebody's face.
Yeah.
And I think they accept that better. But that's the kind of environment we're in, where people can accept what we're doing and they believe in us.
Rural sensibilities. That's an important thing in education. I've heard for so long, especially the Republican Party, they talk about, we got to consolidate. We got to make it more efficient. And so I did a deep study, and I actually was a consultant to Gary Stanislavski as chairman of the education committee. I found that a national organization of superintendents said about 5,000 is the optimal size, where it's big enough that you can invest in the special programs and educational content, but not so big that administrative costs eat up. This is a thing, a lot of 5,000 students in a school district.
Okay, not one school. I was going to say, because we've got one here in town.
Right.
That is, it's not.
Well,
okay.
Because in 1889 Institute, Byron Slomak did a deep dive on all the regulations in public school. And he said any school district over 10,000, the per student expenditures on administrative overhead is $1,000 more than in the little rural school districts.
Oh, I can see that.
So efficiency actually says once you get over 5,000, you're too big to be efficient. And that's on Oklahoma results. The other part is I looked at the school report cards, and the top 100, I think there's only 2 in Tulsa County, made it like 94 and 98 was Bixby and Jenks. Yeah. Almost all the top 100 were little rural districts. Yeah. That makes you look good, John.
It does. Well, and two, it's really semantics, because I'm a school superintendent, but also I'm a principal. And in the smaller districts, we wear lots of hats, we do lots of roles, and that's to be efficient. And the larger you get, the more you have singular people doing those roles. So apples to compare, you really have to add up everybody that's in that office. But what we look at, and of course, I'm the president of our 92 K-8 schools across the state. We have that organization. We do activities, statewide activities for our kids, academics, everything that high schools do. But our focus is on just providing them the best environment that they can have to succeed, laying the foundation. A lot of talk has been about getting back to the basics, and I think Ryan stole that from me. Let's get back to the basics. But it's true. You lay a foundation for these kids, and they can be anything they want to. But focus on math and reading. No indoctrination either way. Just teach our kids how to read.
The 3 R's.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, let me ask you, your school, what percentage would you say ends up college?
You know, we have, percentage wise, it's probably just like the national average. 23% is national average on any school, on kids going to college. So we're probably about 20% or so. But I would say out of my small school district, I've got attorneys, doctors, physicians, pharmacists, really good tradespeople, business owners. Oh, absolutely. Business owners that our school, and I'm proud to say, has laid a foundation for them to go on and excel.
Right.
And, you know, out of my small school, I was proud of this, but it's athletics, but I have 5 softball pitchers that come out of my school who went to college to pitch, and 2 of them are pitching right now in college. And then of course we had
any of those at Texas Tech?
No. Wow. Well, and,
Texas. There's only one pitcher at Texas Tech.
What did you say, A&M?
No. So,
I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm sorry.
no. So, you know, and we had one, he's a great person, but he went on to play in the Canadian Football League recently. And now he's back coaching over at Muskogee now. I had one that went to the minor leagues in baseball. So I'm saying all that because we're not exclusive to our school. All our schools are putting out quality kids.
Right.
And I want to emulate that throughout the state. And I think we can. I think we can go from 49 to the top 25. Yeah,
that's a great thing, because I was going to ask you with that. How do you think Mississippi is right now the model of achievement and moving from, I think they used to be 50 out of 50.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
well, number one, I heard this morning at the breakfast.
They're number one now.
Well, that's what
Mike
you got to ask who puts together the criteria to judge this, because that's important.
Okay.
Too.
And 2, I would really like to know actually where we're at, because I know about NAEP, the national assessments. They only test about 2 to 3% of our students across the state, if that many. They're judging an entire state based upon those test scores.
That's important.
And
so if they're doing North Tulsa or North Oklahoma City,
just don't know. You just don't know.
Yeah.
But I want a realistic view of where we're at.
Right.
And then I want us to be in the top 25, because it doesn't matter where our kids come from. We don't give our kids let them have excuses of where, if they're from a 1-family home or they're poor or anything. We don't allow the excuses. We just tell them.
Exactly. That's perfect. Now, do you think, is there a certain thing that you could model after Mississippi, let's say? Do you know what they've done to bring I mean, even if they're not number one, let's say, but they're top 10 or top 25, as you want to let us get to, what have they done that has worked so well?
What I understood this morning, what I've been hearing, is that they really implemented a reading program and a statewide director in reading, and to emphasize that, putting money directly into reading programs. My look at it is, like at my school, we do a great job teaching reading. But when it comes to a point where we have to do these assessments, we stop all new instruction and we work test prep to pass this test to look. And so if I can really implement what I've been talking about for several years as a growth model, and we do it anyways at schools, we test periodically to see where they're at and immediately focus on where their deficiencies are or where they need to work on, instead of waiting 3 months to get the end of the year test. We can make advancements. And that last 2 months that we test prep can be brand new instruction. And we can test on the very end of the school year, the last day, and know where they're at. And then in August, start right back up right there.
So you're saying the last 3 months of the school year are generally across the state spent on test prep.
If you don't do it, you're not going to score very good on the report card. My school consistently scores good on the report card. We've, but there's two factors on it. If you improve too much one year and your grade goes up, the next year you can't improve like that.
Right.
So your grade goes down.
Right.
And
Yes,
so
yes.
we experience it, but what we do and what we know is that our kids are being taught what they're supposed to be. And I would like to do away with the 2 months test prep, teach brand new material and get them ready for high school.
Right.
And so important to what we do.
I just earlier gave you an argument against this bigger is better in education, in school.
And I really didn't answer
district. No, you didn't. But here's where I'm going with this now. I talked to a guy when I did a big study on centerpolitics.org years ago. And given that 5,000 is kind of a nice range, I said any school district over 10,000 needs to be broken up, which means Tulsa would have to be broken up into 4 or 5. I think it'd be better for Tulsa.
And we talked about that.
Right. Yes, we did last time you were in. Here's my thought is if you're going to consolidate little schools, the important thing is you got to do rural with rural. I had one parent says, I am not sending my kid from OK into Muskogee. I said, Muskogee's got 7,000. They're already too big. They can't take another. It'll make them worse. I said, Fort Gibson's too big. You can't do any more on that. But getting rural districts to combine resources so you have a better ag program, a better auto shop class, preparing kids for the trades.
Yes.
Because right now, because it's people going to liberal arts colleges that are running our schools, they're basically getting our schools to be miniature versions of liberal arts. Where do the trades get taught? Where do they get respected?
And we have one of the best trades business in the nation as far as education. Our technology centers are the best.
Yeah.
And they do an excellent job on that. But what I like to talk about is not size of school or number of superintendents, but the efficiency of a school. And so if you come into my school and we're not efficient with our money, something needs to be done about us. And even in a large system, and I remember you talked about Keith Ballard. I remember 2009 or 10, he dismissed about 300 administrators that year. And I'm sitting there going, how did you have 300 administrators that you could dismiss? And really so that says a lot.
What position was he in at that time?
He was superintendent.
State superintendent.
No, he was
Tulsa. Tulsa. Yeah, okay.
That message to me was, where is the efficiencies? Because you can go into these small schools, 200, 300, 400 kids, and they're a lot like me who do various jobs. We do federal programs. We're hands-on. And if you as a parent, which we work for our parents, I mean, I make a point to tell my parents that, because they always think they're bothering you. That's typical. And I go, no, I work for you. So it's important that we're as efficient with money as down to the penny. And so when people talk about consolidation in those, you don't want to destroy a community because you just want to see if you can save some money.
That's exactly.
And you're not saving money. My district's 86 square miles. So if somebody takes me, to get my little kindergarten and first graders on a bus, they're going to have to go 30, 40 minutes out the hills and then another 30 to an hour to school. So do we want our babies on buses that long? And people say, no, we want to keep that school district. Well, change my name. I mean, from superintendent to a principal, still have me do the same job. And, and it does away with that. But that's kind of silly to say that, because I'd be doing exactly what I'm doing.
Right. But you said, for instance, Votex, they actually work with your high schools around the state.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're fantastic.
And they actually help get those ag programs, the auto shop class, and plenty of others. Okay. But I know, John, you as a superintendent have things you'd like to develop, but with only 100 and less than 200 kids, you can't do everything you want to.
Yeah. Well, and with ours, and you got from pre-K through 8, you should be working on basics. I mean, you should be getting them prepared, have a strong fundamental background in mathematics,
Right.
You know,
now you go through 12th grade at Peggs.
No, we go through 8th grade. There's 92 of us.
The website says pegs.k12.
Well,
okay. Yeah.
That's one of those old one net. You know, that's
okay. So you're not.
That's an Oklahoma.
K8.
You're a dependent school district.
Well, we don't like to say dependent because we're not dependent on anybody. We are elementary school.
But the
district.
kids go to some other school district for high school,
and they have choice.
Yeah.
So right now,
good.
our kids in 9th grade, they can pick and choose any high school that they want that parent feels like is the best for that child.
Nice.
And I love that. Mm-hmm. They tried to change that on us a little bit this year, but we were able to get it stopped and only say you could go to the adjacent school because I want my parents to have a choice. I don't want them to take that away from them.
Good for you. Anything that gives parents choice, family choice, I'm for.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's just take care of the child.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is very good. So what are the high school options for your kids to go to?
Our kids typically go to Locust Grove or Tahlequah, and Halbert is through the hills, about 10 miles from us. Some go there. Sequoia Tahlequah has a really nice high school program there.
Is that a public school?
It is a BIA school.
Right.
But I think their K through 8 is an immersion school.
Okay.
Which is a public school.
There's not a tribal component required. You don't need the right bloodline to go there.
Well, I say no. I think you do.
Yeah.
Actually, I think you have to have tribal affiliation.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, how long are the bus rides to high school then? Are they, some of them are pretty, depending on which one you want to go to?
So that's an odd thing too, because transportation districts are different. So Tahlequah kind of comes into our transportation area and Halbert does, but Locust Grove does not cross the line. Mm-hmm. But they've changed all that now where a bus can go anywhere. Like I could bring a bus to Tulsa, pick kids up and bring them back to Peggs if I wanted.
Wow.
So they've actually changed all that now. But,
see, in Union, they quit taking kids to the local school some days. There's days that if your parents don't get you there, and then this studio is right across from the old Bird Middle School, right? We're near Memorial. Kids are going to this school that live in Fairmont Terrace down by the river, 8 miles, 15-minute drive. If those kids don't make the school bus, they ain't going to school that day.
Wow.
Because you're not going to have, do I want my kid walking 8 miles through town with gang lines? What are we dealing with here? The busing is an important issue.
But that brings up another point.
Yeah.
There's a shortage of bus drivers. And they've made it so difficult to become a bus driver that we can't find them. Back in the day, when I got my bus driver's license, you typically got your CDL, and then you went and took a test. They made sure you put your seatbelt on, and you knew the basic rules. Now you actually have to be able to climb under the bus, name some parts of the deal, and like you're a mechanic.
Oh.
Yes.
And so we've got people going and failing the test when they would be great bus drivers.
Now, fortunately, public safety, they've created a special license that doesn't have a bunch of that air brake questions.
Because a lot of our buses don't have air brakes.
Right.
So like my CDL and my bus driver's license, I don't drive a bus with air brakes.
Yeah. They just felt like, you know what, if you're driving for school and the bus breaks down, you're calling the school district's mechanic. They're handling it.
But they should do that with every bus.
Right.
Regardless if it's air brake bus or a regular bus.
Yeah. And some of this is federal standards that are
basically
they're
an interpretation of federal.
Oh, good point, John. Good point. Interpretation.
So there are a lot of things that people really don't see. And I think that's my advantage coming into this is you can talk to me about any part of public school and I can eloquently talk to you about that.
I'll bet you mop vomit off the floor too. I mean, you have to do it all.
We've done it all. Yeah. But I have good people around me that go, no, I got it. But yeah, you should do it all.
Yeah.
We're not too good to not do
That's
things.
A good leader, John.
So bringing it back to the macro level for the state and your desire to become the next superintendent of education, what do you see that you could bring to the table to elevate us from 48th or 49th up into the top 25?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think there's a couple things. And one thing is I think employees, no matter what business you're in, should feel valued. And I think that has to come back, a strong value of our teachers. I used to put my teacher up on a pedestal. I mean, I just thought they were everything. And, we got to put that respect back. I think that creates motivation in a person to work harder, no matter where you're at. But what I was talking about, the 2 months on test prep and doing brand new instruction, that gives you 2 months of critical instruction in reading or any other area. And so I think just that itself will make a movement on the needle.
Do you think the OEA is somewhat of a hindrance to education?
I hear that a lot, but they don't bother us. I think they advocate for that group of teachers, but they don't get in the way of what I do. And people can argue about that. They push for other agenda items that I don't agree with. But as far as what I do in my public school and ones I know about, they don't have that impact.
Is there a large membership in the OEA among your teachers?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think I have any.
It's more
there might be a couple that's POE, which professional Oklahoma educators. They're more conservative Christian teacher group. Right. Is the way I view them. And so we have a great relationship.
Right.
And so I want people out there advocating for our teachers, but I don't want to push an agenda on them either.
Back in 17, 18, there was a teacher walkout. It was a wildcat strike. But what a lot of people don't know, thanks to the horrible news media, only about a third of the schools were affected by it.
Yeah, I think we went up there one day. I think we did.
But did you shut down the school?
No, because we have babies out there. We have young people that we need in school. But the thing is we still supported the state and what our teachers were feeling. And basically that's kind of where it got off kilter, is that our teachers should have been respected more, and they should have had more pay at the time. And, probably when I first started, I was advocating for $35,000 pay. Mm-hmm. That's when they were making 32. And then I was saying they at least need to make 40 a living wage. Mm-hmm. And now we're at 50,000. They should make 50,000.
I told a bunch of teachers there in Rotunda, I said, you'll never be paid what you're worth.
No.
And I'll tell you why. Because they need you hungry enough, your administrators, that you'll come down here and pick it. Because nobody cares if a bunch of superintendents go down there and raise a ruckus. Yeah. But it's Susie's fourth grade teacher. Now they're
it's a different ballgame.
But how do you respond to the fact that you have private schools that are paying less?
They do pay less.
And yet the students academically do better.
And I would almost say that it really depends on what teacher they have in those private schools, because I don't really know if private does better than public or public better than private, but it is the teacher that you have in that room. It boils down to that.
It's the family commitment to it.
Exactly.
Because you look at culturally, Eddie and I have a young man that's come in here and works with us on things. He's from an Asian family that, by and large, I'm going to sound racist. I'm going to pigeonhole and everything. I don't care. The societal respect for education process varies from one culture, one ethnicity to another.
It does, yes.
There's something.
Did I get in trouble?
No, I don't think so. But to your point, if you're making a commitment to put someone in private school, you have that family, because they have made, and like I said about homeschool, you're making that commitment. So that is going to be the highest priority.
In other words, they care enough about your education to seek out that school and pay the money to get what they think is a better education. Right?
But we have parents that have kids in public school that have the same care and the same desire for their child to do the best they can.
Well, yeah.
700,000 kids. And that's what I hear people say, well, we just need to get rid of public schools. But I'm thinking, well, what about the 700,000 kids out there? What are they going to do? They're not going to go to private school. A lot of private schools can't take them because they don't have room.
Right. Right.
And so
I just think we need more options.
we do.
The options are important.
And we need to give the resources to those options.
Yeah.
And we need to give the resources to our public schools to be able to carry out what they need to do also.
It's like I said earlier, I am very much a proponent for public schools. All of mine, my daughter got a full scholarship to Pepperdine, which is now, I think, $100,000 a year. At that time, it was just 20 some years ago. But that shows how that is escalated, the cost. And then I have, a pilot, one's a vice president of a National Hockey League team who are in the finals, by the way, Stanley Cup finals. And then, and the other one is a chef and builds restaurants. So, and that was all out of public school.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I just hate the public schools that are failing, which brings me to the point. Yeah. What can you do? For example, let's take our current superintendent. It's like they fight him tooth and nail for every little change he wants to make. How do you feel you could deal with, let's say, North Tulsa, North OKC, some of those districts? There's probably others, probably in Muskogee and in the other cities, the cities around the state, that you're going to have to deal with maybe an unfriendly audience. So what do you propose that maybe Ryan is not doing now that you could do in a better way?
So I'm a strong proponent for local control. I absolutely believe the people in that community should have the power and authority to change things. And if you go into inner city Oklahoma City, it really should be those people that make the transformational change. They should be the ones that give their voice, and then we should come back with resources to help make that happen. They have to care. That community has to care about what goes on before it's going to happen. If I go in there and I try to be a bully and say, you're going to do this, well, there will be a fight. But if I can go in there and go, how can we make this better? Do you want your kids to have these opportunities? What can we do for that? And engage those people. I think that's where you make change. You can't go in and just bully somebody to do something. And you have to do it in a different way. And my leadership style is to engage people, really listen to them and try to figure out what their needs are. And it's like y'all said earlier, every community is distinct. And, you should cater your tech systems to the area industries that are around there. So those kids can actually learn that trade, go right back to those companies and make a great wage in that community that they live in. And those are things that are really wanted. But I think that's what I bring to the table. I think Ryan has broken the glass ceiling. I was thinking about that yesterday, as far as, the authority of a state superintendent and what they can do to get in, to make changes. And just what I was saying about the assessments and doing those to help schools get better. We can also target the resources, and we can just be a help to our public schools. And I want to be a strong service organization. The Cox administration will be a strong service organization to these public schools. But I think we put responsibility on the communities to make their school better. They should be the ones that care if their school is not good enough.
Amen. You're right.
And then you take that power and you help increase what they're doing.
Okay. So if we've got to do, things that make a difference, that it's not always more legislative, one size fits all mandates,
right?
Nor is it a bunch of agency regulations,
right?
Because what I found out from 1889 Institute's study of this, no wonder it cost $10,000 at Tulsa Public Schools to teach a kid. The reams and reams of education, from the school lunch to the busing program to the size of the desk and all this. And we created these charter schools to kind of streamline this. And if a charter school doesn't have to follow every last rule, why should Peggs Public Schools.
All right. So I've been asking that question.
I knew I was going to set you up with that.
Well, and it's perfect because if those rules are good for those charters to make them successful, allow us to do it. Allow us to have that leniency to, if I see a really good person that is teaching 4th grade, but they're excellent in mathematics, but they don't have the degree, why can't they teach 8th grade mathematics for me if they're excellent at it? And why can't I, as a superintendent or a local school board, go, we want to put that person in that position? Right now, you can't do that because
they don't have the degree.
They don't have the certification in that area. Yeah, they don't have it. And so that allows a local district to make those decisions, to put people in place where they need to be.
Yeah, but I see a bunch of conservative lawmakers getting so frustrated with public schools that they're just going to say, well, here's where we're going to mandate this and mandate this. And a lot of their proposals end up making things worse.
It can. And I think a lot of proposals are out of frustration, and some of them are local.
Yeah,
it's not statewide, a statewide concern. It's more of a local concern that they're making a statewide. But I think an advantage I have, I believe I've earned respect from a lot of our legislators and ones that are in positions of power and leadership. And I think we can all work together to maybe not make a law, but let them see that I can take care of those things that they see important.
Yeah.
And I think the whole thing about public ed is that you can't do anything unless you can motivate a child. Motivation is the key to passing a test. It's the key to getting good grades in school or going on and doing a career. We have to be good at motivating kids.
That's the difference between somebody just looking at it as a job and someone who feels a calling to this vocation.
I would love to stay at Peggs forever.
Yeah.
I mean, they genuinely take good care of me, and they allow me the autonomy that you're talking about to make decisions for the betterment of a child. And my life I'm at a place in my life right now where, I don't need this, but I see it so important.
The state needs it.
These kids need that.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandchildren, my babies are going to be coming up through that system. Mm-hmm. And I want something that is very, very great for them. Mm-hmm. And so it's selfish on my part to say that, just for my own, but I feel like if my own kids and grandkids are benefiting, everybody's going to benefit.
Yeah.
Now, don't mayors of community also have a role to play, or city government? Because, I think of Tulsa, for example. It's like, he's got this. Like, are you going to get me in trouble here? No, I won't get you in trouble. But I'm just saying, to me, one of the big problems that I see here in this city, I don't know about Oklahoma City, I don't know about Muskogee but I know here one of the big problems is you have these Democrat mayors who are so bent on social change and things, and the emphasis there so for example, I live in Philadelphia, one time in the projects, then into North Philadelphia, and in my neighborhood, my gang, for example, there were 3 of us that went to Catholic school. The rest went to public school. After school, you couldn't tell the difference. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were as bad as the other guys, and they were as good as us. We did the same stupid stuff. But educationally, motivationally, all of these things were like 180 degrees apart. Whereas the kids who went to Catholic school, all in their minds, there was no question, I'm going to college.
Yeah.
And I got to get my grades and do whatever I got to do to get there. Whereas the rest of the kids, they were happy to just, if I can get a job, and so the public schools were not motivating young people to lift their sights. You had a bunch of teachers there that just were happy to have a job and get these kids through here and out of here. In fact, that's where the old promotion by age came in. You can have a kid flunk 5 times and still be in the 5th grade. He's now 15 years old and he's still in the 5th grade versus,
and that's a safety issue.
Right. And so what they start doing is having the promotion because,
social promotion.
Social promotion. Yeah. You move them on whether they're but to me, that's the real problem, John. How do you influence schools in a North Tulsa, in a North Oklahoma City, in places where you have failing schools? How do you motivate the people involved, whether it's the superintendent of education or the principals and the school boards of these different districts? How can you motivate them to not be so offended because you're calling the schools what they are, crappy?
Right.
And so to me, that's your real challenge. That's the real challenge of whoever the superintendent is somehow calling these people in and saying, look, something has to change, or reaching those parents that you're talking about. And that's another thing, because you have basically absent parents. They may be on drugs. Some may be incarcerated. Some just don't give a rip. That's probably the biggest problem, where the parents really don't care. It's all about them. I'm on welfare as long as I get my check. I don't care about you, So do you have anything in mind to try to ignite that area, to reach those, because success to me is measured by the lowest common denominator. If you raise the lowest common denominator, then
everything else raises.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for talking so long, but anyway.
No, and you probably answered my question while you were talking through that. But I've kind of watched Elena when she's come on the school board and watched that she has community meetings.
Elena Ashley, Tulsa Public Schools.
Yeah, and she has these community meetings where people can actually come and voice and say, and it really comes back to what we talked about earlier about, unless you can get that community to care, those people right in that neighborhood to care, nothing's going to happen.
Exactly.
And you can tell them what to do all you want, and it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
So you have to, as a leader, you have to really go in and find those people that community looks to, that are a part of that community, who want that change.
Yeah. And
I think that raises everything. But it comes down to motivation. And you mentioned the parents and households. There are some households that have major concerns, and I think we have to look out for those who are less fortunate than us. Yeah. But motivation comes, I think, not so much from the top, but how I will be perceived when I'm in there as somebody who's really cares about people beyond what they're trying to learn. And I think that's so important. I think great teachers make a child, when they're in their classroom, feel like they belong and that they're loved. And if you can get that done, I'm a Maslow person, so I really think the basic needs have to be met before you get there. And that's what we're talking about. How can you get past the basic needs to start accelerate them up to self-actualization?
Yeah.
And so I think as a strong leader that I can show that, and that I can be actively involved in finding those stakeholders that, they have to be part of it.
Okay. You made an important announcement this week, and you made an important phone call. Do you want to talk to us about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, so Wednesday, we announced my candidacy for state superintendent. You're in. I am absolutely 100% in. I just have to say, this week has been phenomenal. I've always believed, in all these times I've ran, that I'm on God's time. I didn't care. I really didn't care about me. Okay. I just felt like there was a service to do. And if it was my job for those 2 times to get out and talk about points to be made, things we need to be doing, that was it. But I had people reaching out from all over the state going, we are excited. And not just, key people that can make a difference, like you were talking about in these communities. So I am very proud to be out there and be a voice, and not only for rural Oklahoma, but for all children across the state, and trying to do things for them. And even if they go to public or not, my job will be for those 700,000 students, but that don't mean I don't care about the other students that go to other places.
Who else is in?
Right now, we have the Bixby superintendent, and I think he and Superintendent Walters have had this ongoing feud. And
a lawsuit.
Yeah,
there was some nasty words said.
Yeah. So I respect the office of state superintendent, and Ryan is doing what he campaigned on.
He is.
And like it or not, I told people while we were campaigning, this is what he's saying.
Right.
This is what he's doing. And so what I wanted him to know out of respect that I was running.
Okay.
I felt like that was really important because I respect that position.
Mm-hmm.
And so he gave me a thumbs up on that. He loved that I reached out to him. And
you both have treated each other honorably through the last run.
I think you're supposed to.
Yes.
And you know, I was having a discussion earlier about I am that kind person. Sometimes I'm perceived as being too kind, but I think I carry a big stick, and that big stick is my experience that I have and all of the training that's my stick.
Last time he was in, he sat in your chair there, and he said, I hope I can find a way to incorporate John on a bigger level. I don't know that happened. Now, your style is different than his.
It is.
But the values are probably closer than people might.
Extremely conservative.
Yeah.
And you know, and how can you argue against getting pornography out of the schools and having appropriate materials? And
that's book burning. You're book burning.
Making sure your libraries are appropriate. You can't argue with that because it's true. I mean,
it is.
And so those are things that, you know, I will carry on to make sure that we don't have any indoctrination. No, nothing but learning.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just have schools to learn, leave the social aspects for at home with the parents.
Thank you.
Allow our churches to come in and work with those families towards God and Christ.
They'll want to, yeah.
Let me be somebody who people can see Christ in.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of me slapping them over the face and saying, yeah, you need to be a Christian, let them just see how we live.
Do you think Ryan's a candidate?
For state superintendent?
For another term?
I think he is looking, I honestly believe he's going for a higher position.
He's looking at other options.
And that's why I reached out to him, because I can't wait if I'm going to do this and if he's not.
Mm-hmm.
And so he'll tell people on his own time what he's doing. I just believe it's going to be for a higher position. But I wanted him to know up front what I was doing.
Now, we've invited Ryan to come back. In fact, a year ago, he said, Dave, I need to come back in. I said, yeah. But he's hasn't
extremely
been
busy.
He hasn't been. And I don't take it personally in that. Yeah. But I think if Ryan's not in this race, if I was a betting man, I'd bet he'd be saying, I feel safe with John.
I think he would. And
Eddie,
I believe that. I believe that's true. I think fundamentally all the social, all those issues that we could talk about for hours and say we don't need in public schools, and we just need to get back to the basics and those key things.
Well, it's interesting because I think, you know, I've supported Mr. Cox, the last Dr. Cox, excuse me, Dr.
John's good.
John,
yeah, John is good.
That's good. Anyway, but I was supporting you against, what's her name?
Janet.
No. What was that?
Joy Hoffmeister.
Yeah, Joy, joyless Hoffmeister. Yeah. But anyway, and then I supported you last time. Dave was a big Ryan fan, and I like Ryan. Don't get me wrong, I like Ryan, but I just felt with your background, your experience, you could bring more to it. A lot of people, I think, voted for you because it's a party deal. You were a Democrat before.
Yeah, you had to bring that up.
Sorry. No, I mean, it's better we bring it up now than have somebody try to nail it.
How do you grow up in Peggs and not be Democrat? Well, your parents, right?
Yeah, and really, I'm glad you said that, because that was a little bit, because people are going, well, is he really a Republican?
Right.
But I'll just say, my parents were both Republicans, business owners in Adair County in the 70s. Mm-hmm. That was a rarity. And so then we moved to Delaware County, where I went to high school. Mm-hmm. At 18, I filed as a Republican.
Yeah,
my parents were. That's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
But then I went to try to vote, and there was nobody on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I thought, how would I make a difference? How will my voice be heard? And so you went from Delaware to Mays to Cherokee, all three staunch Democrat. But as the process, when I ran, I found out more about, do I agree with that issue, Democrat issue? And I just go.
Yeah. But see, I've always been that way. I mean, people know me. I got kicked off the executive committee of the Republican Party in Tulsa once because I supported a Democrat. Yeah. But to me, see, until we're able to get off of that thinking, you vote for the person, not the party. Now, generally, the party is messed up. The one party, the Democrats, are messed up, but that doesn't mean everybody that's a Democrat is not right.
I was a Democrat with Republican values, and everybody kept saying, "You're a Republican."
Yeah.
And, I didn't even know about party. I just knew I had to go do something to help public ed. Yeah. And then I found where I lie, and I'm a conservative Republican.
Yeah, look, I'll tell you, I was down 8 years ago in Pushmataha County, Antlers. You've been down there, right?
I have been.
Okay. I'm at their county Republican convention, all 12 of us in the room, right? And she says, now our state convention's in May, and then you have about 2 weeks to re-register as a Democrat so you can vote in the June primaries. That's the Republican county chair telling them re-register so you can vote in the primaries.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm where I'm at. I mean, I'm where I'll be here regardless of this outcome, which I honestly believe I am going to win.
Third time's the charm.
But regardless, I'll be till the rest of my life.
By the way, in the last 10 years, that's changed now. Yeah. Almost every county's majority Republican. Yeah. And so what you had to do 10 years ago, back when you were a Democrat, that's what you had to do in rural Oklahoma to have a voice. Yeah. But it's changed.
Well, and honestly, if I would have ran against Joy and I would have been the Republican and she the Democrat, the outcome, I would have been state superintendent. And that would not have been on God's time. And that I believe that. I believe there's timing for everything. And I think this is the appropriate time with how Ryan has divided everything out, and I can come through and pick the pieces up and put them together, and we can do great things through our public education.
Right.
Yeah, very good.
I love it.
How do people get in touch with you, get involved in your campaign, find out more?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Talk to the camera.
Yeah, so go to cox4ok.com. Doesn't matter how you spell it, cox4ok.com. You can find me, Elect Dr. John Cox, on Facebook. And then, of course, my cell number is everywhere, but it's 918-720-4019. I answer. If I don't, I'm talking to somebody. I'll call you right back. But we're going to make this happen. I've absolutely loved the last 4 days and people reaching out. And then I love these conversations.
Good.
I do. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Cox.
You're welcome, John.
It's funny. I have a theological background and minister and all, but and I'm ordained, but I will not let anybody call me reverend. Well, it's like Jesus told the Pharisees.
Yeah.
So there's nothing more reverent about me than Dave, and Dave's in a mess. Hey, John, thank you very much for coming in. Yeah, we've always enjoyed it. We saw each other at a breakfast, last week? Yeah. And at first I didn't know who it was because of the weight loss again. And congratulations once again, by the way.
I'm training.
Yeah. Well, I need to follow that. But anyway, I just realized, and then he asked if he could come on. I said, definitely, let's do it.
Yeah. Now
it won't be the last time either.
A year from now, we're going to be coming up for the primary. Yes. Right. That's going to be we hope we have you in getting close to the primary. When we do, one of the things I'm going to want to talk to you about, we didn't today, is Trump wants to take the money from the federal Department of Education and give more autonomy, block granted to the state.
Oh, I would love to have that conversation.
Yeah, we need to have that talk next time.
Yeah, because I want to be state superintendent and handle those block grants.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Good. So that was your short answer. He'll get into it much deeper next time.
Yeah.
All right. And we will see you again.
All right.
And thank you again for coming in today. God bless. Bye.
Thank you.
I close the door to feel the cold gray pulse of the night. My soul grows warm within, yet I'm sad and still by the side. I see people hang their heads, hearts dangle by a thread, and I stop to pray for lonely lives slipping away. So many faces, so many lives, so many lives. Trying to survive, trying to survive. So many wonders, how will it end? The answer's waiting, just let him in. I walk alone in silence. My tears, they melt in the rain. I've always shown my feelings. Now all I'm feeling is pain. Cause it's hard to understand all the love at my command. There's so much to say, but time keeps slipping away. So many faces, so many lives, so many lives. Trying to survive, trying to survive. So many wonders, how will it end? The answer's waiting, just let him in. Here in my heart, there's a hope that endures the darkest hour. In their eyes, I see so many faces, so many lives, so many lives. Trying to survive, trying to survive. So many wonders, how will it end? The answer's waiting, just let him in. So many faces, so many lives. Looking for reason and trying to survive, trying to survive. So many wonders.
We're taking a short break here while Dave is showing Dr. Mr. John Cox out. Here he comes. I'm putting a placeholder in here for us.
There we go.
All right. As Dave maneuvers around the equipment. All right. I don't think we need any intro music to go back in.
No, this just rolls live. It just went silent.
Right.
So,
well, the music, the out music, I did the full song, so it's about 3 minutes, 3 or 4. So if you want to cut up anything out of it, so
sure.
Anyway, we did have a great talk with.
Not hearing anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've got to. You're not hearing anything.
Not hearing anything at all.
Excuse us a second.
Actually, it's check.
Oh, I know why. I know I turned your thing down. Do you hear?
There we go. That
Yeah,
helps.
there you go. Yeah, because that music was feeding back. Okay. Yeah, it was a very interesting discussion. As I said, I've supported him the last 2 times he ran. The first time against Joy Hoffmeister, and then the last time against Ryan. Even though that was almost, for me, you can't lose situation last time. But no, I really think he's the right person. It's funny because before we went on the air, we had a discussion over in my office, and he could not relate to that. All things are fair in love and war. And I was telling him about some of my background in Philadelphia. We've talked about it here before, that there's no such thing as a fair fight in a street fight.
Okay.
And he just couldn't relate to that, whereas I was saying when I was in a swimming pool and I'm 11 years old, I'm fighting a 12-year-old. I'm beating the crap out of the 12-year-old, and all of a sudden I hear cut, and here comes a 15-year-old to take the place. And he's dancing like Muhammad Ali before Muhammad Ali, and 2 blows, boom, and I'm done. And there that was seen as totally fair because no one called. You have to call this thing. It's called a fair one, and if you don't call fair one, anything can go, and you can have anybody jump in to take the place. And I told John, he's too nice, but. I'd rather have too nice than too slimy. And I think there's some other races where we have some people that, for me, a little too slimy. So, but I do hope he does well. This third time's the charm. And I think we can see some changes. So,
yeah, I was just reading on Twitter, X, that Gettner Drummond just badgering Ryan Walters. And I think Gettner thinks Ryan's going to run for governor.
Well, yeah, but there's a twofold thing there. I think he sees that Ryan has been so vilified, as we know, and there's such a bad opinion about him that, as you said earlier, even Republican candidates, are afraid to take up for him.
Yeah,
and which is a shame to me, because this is what the left does. And something is Republican, it just drives me nuts. We allow them to do it. And so I'll just take us back a little bit, maybe 20, 30 years. And they talked about right-wing people. It was just right-wingers, okay? And so
it's only liberals that use that term, isn't it?
Well, right. And so, but they call us, it was extreme right wing or right wingers. Then it became right wing conservatives. So now all of a sudden, first they conditioned everybody to think that if you're right wing, you're a John Bircher, which, by the way, I didn't realize until maybe 5 years ago that I actually like the John Birch Society. When I read their stuff, it's some of the best stuff out there. Yeah. If you want to look him up, look up John Birch Society website. Incredible articles.
Eddie, I know a lot of national leaders, John Birch Society. You are just like them. In fact, one guy you kind of got onto, you're poking the bear, Steve Bias. He's one of the top journalists in their national magazine.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But see, it's funny because I was conditioned to think John Birch Society was like Ku Klux Klan. Yeah. As a black young person growing up, that's what you're taught. Yes. John Birchers are these hood-wearing, right-wing. Yeah. I even used it, right-wing fanatics that hate all minorities and hate everything good and wonderful in the world. Yeah. Kill puppy dogs, that kind of thing. But anyway, as I looked into it, the John Birch Society, in any event, but so they started out right-wing, and then they tied conservative to you. So if you're conservative now, you're right-wing, which means you're evil. Then they took it a step further. Right-wing, conservative, what? Christian.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So now, if you're a Bible-believing Christian, you're a right-wing, conservative Christian, which is evil. Now, you've become evil because you've been associated with conservatism and tied to right wing. Okay. So this is how the left works. This is how they do it. It's propaganda and mind altering, really. it's like what we talked about with Walter Martin and Kingdom of the Cults, how the cults can use word games and to manipulate change of terms.
Yep.
And you've got to define terms, okay?
Yep.
And so sadly, a lot of Christians and conservative politicians have fallen into the mold of, oh, I don't want to be one of those people. It's like the day I got saved on a Friday night, which reminds me, what is today? What is today's date? It's not the 12th yet, is it?
No.
I got saved on June 12th, 1973. But anyway, I didn't want to miss my anniversary. No, but the day after, the next morning, I called my friends, my normal friends, to see what are they doing. And the first thing I heard, hello, Jesus freak.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody's laughing and making fun of me. And I said, well, I was thinking about don't you come over here with any of that bleep, bleep Christian stuff, you know. Blessedly, it's probably the greatest thing that ever happened to me because they drove me farther into association with Christians, Christian fellowship. If I had seen them and hung out with them, I'd have probably just fallen back to my old ways. But because of their rejection, I fled to the believers. We were all young, bunch of crazy Christian hippies, but truly Bible, I guess everybody I know is still walking with the Lord. But anyway, and so this is what's been going on the progressive, you know, that's another thing. They keep coming up, you know, we call them liberal, then they change and become progressive because it sounds better, it feels better.
Well, they've ruined the word liberal.
Yeah, well, they're about to ruin the word progressive.
And they aren't even really liberal, they're leftists.
Yeah.
But liberal means I disagree with you, but I support your right to not agree with me.
Well, right, you know,
that's true.
Dr. Everett Piper has a book out called something like I think it's Why I'm a Liberal and Other Conservative Ideas or something like that.
Nice.
So basically in the book he describes why he's truly a liberal and what a liberal truly is, that the liberals are the people that are actually the more conservative because they want to give you the opportunity to think how you think. And the people who we were calling liberals or progressives, they're not your friends. They won't accept you unless you think exactly like they do.
Right. They're intolerant. Which is the opposite of being liberal.
Yeah. And they're the ones who are preaching tolerance,
yeah,
but they're intolerant with their tolerance.
Yeah. The first time we had Nathan Dahm in here about 4 years ago, he said, I won't use the word liberal to describe the Democrat left.
Right.
Because the liberal's too nice a word for them.
They're dogmatic. They're belligerent. They're everything.
Well, cancel culture.
Yeah.
They just are.
Yeah. They're not nice. They're not nice people. And
the way they use political correctness to shut people down and to change the definitions.
Right.
That's why, I'm a stickler. A Native American is somebody born in America. Okay. Born American. Right. I mean, Eddie, by today's standards.
Yeah, in other words, not an Indian.
Right.
Right. Not necessarily an Indian.
The U.S. Census refers to them as North American Indians. That is their definition, distinction in legal terms.
Right. And that's appropriate.
But even conservative media, I was listening to Newsmax this morning, and there is, you know what you could actually call Aboriginals. Yes, you could. They're American Aboriginals. But to his credit, our friend T.W. Shannon, who was weekend host on Newsmax this morning, he did not call himself Native American. He said, I'm a member of the Cherokee tribe. Yeah, TJ has been, TW, has been politicking for a job on Newsmax for some time. Well, he's filming wherever they need him. But I think he's going to eventually work his way, or they are working him in there. He was on the 8 o'clock program where they have the panel every night. Right.
Weekly. He was on there.
He filled in for the token Democrat.
The token black Democrat.
Jason, I think the guy's name. But anyway, so he filled in that. He had been doing the morning show, filling in on weekends for the last few weeks. But today he hosted a 2-hour stint by himself. That's tough to do. It's when you don't have a co-anchor with you.
Right.
He did great.
I think he finally found his niche.
Yeah.
And
every politician will tell you they wish they had as much influence as the media. That's why they try to befriend media so much, is because the microphone, and that's why, I was at the state convention, see John, everybody wants to come on because the reach.
They want to be able to get their ideas out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, hey, couple of items. I want to start with sports this time, and my Raiders, guns up. Red Raiders, I'm very proud of them. They did well. They did lose in the final game.
Softball.
2 out of 3. They lost 2 out of 3. They did beat Texas once. And they should have won the first game.
It was a close game.
Yeah, they blew it in the last inning and let this battery hit a...
They lost by a run, then they won by a run.
Right. And then last night it got blown out.
What I'm hearing is Jari Kennedy, the superstar, the $1 million baby.
$2 million baby.
Okay, the only report I heard is she exceeded 1 million in NIL.
Right, and then there's another group that is given another $1 million. There's another source. So I just the reason I know that I just read it this morning.
All right. So that's
because I was thinking $2 million, and all of a sudden it turns out it's like $2 million.
Yeah. Oh,
in fact, here's what's interesting. One of the millionaires who gave towards this first $1 million, Cody, I can't think of his name, Cody Campbell.
Okay.
His name was a football player. He was a former Tech football player, and then ends up becoming an oil, not billionaire, an oil billionaire. Okay. And so that's the one group. And then, of course, the other is I can't remember what the second source of it, but basically she's over $2 million now. So, but she seems to be the nicest, sweetest person that you want to meet, and they just love her. And she has put, as they call it, butts in the seats.
Yep.
In fact, did you watch the game yesterday?
I listened to it.
The last couple of games, the stadium just packed. And, but yeah, like you said, she's injured, actually. She has
it sounds like a hamstring.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're pitching like that,
you can't step with the oomph.
So guess what? Now I forget what school it was in Louisiana.
Where the coach came from?
Coach came from.
Right.
And he brought a great team, several members. The one person he couldn't bring is Sam Landry.
Yeah, the pitcher.
Because Sam knew she goes there, she ain't ever going to get to pitch because they're paying $1 million to have Jari Kennedy.
Well, no, but you've got to have other pitchers because you can't have the same person pitching. As we saw last night, once Sam, what's her name? Right. They are not Campbell. That great a team when Jari's taken the day off pitching. Right.
I looked at their win-loss.
Right.
2/3 of their losses were games they were giving Jari a rest. But Sam Landry is that good.
Oh yeah. I've watched all those games, and not only she's just very interesting looking. I almost wonder if she's part Asian. She looks like there's a little bit of slant to those eyes.
Okay.
And the other thing, she also looks like she would be a school marm. The old fashioned, because those glasses she wears and the way she has that bun.
She's kind of lanky too, tall, slender, lanky.
Yeah, and she just looks like a librarian or
the big glasses too. Yeah.
Yeah. But man, I just love her personality and her, I mean, just everything about her. But yeah, it's interesting that she comes from the same school as the new Texas Tech coach.
And I mean, the Texas Tech coach was personally really pulling for her. Mm-hmm. And then it was tough. It's like, she's pitching against my team now.
Yeah.
In the semifinals.
Yeah. And I saw a nice photo of them afterwards where they greeted each other and just they hugged. There's a lot of respect.
I mean, that coach, he's like, Sam's my daughter almost.
Yeah.
There's that much love and respect. So, yeah. And by the way, I listened yesterday on Chris Plank, is the local play-by-play for the softball team at OU. And he had Patty Gasso on. She said, this was my rebuilding year. I wasn't expecting any of this. He says, the funny thing is these girls all felt like, yeah, we're supposed to be there.
Yeah. And I think all the OU fans felt they were supposed to be there.
But the person who had the least expectations this year going into it was Patty Gasso. Yeah. And she said, having said that, get ready for next year.
Yeah.
I mean, she's that confident of what she's got coming. Yeah. They're losing 4 people. Only one of them was really a starter at all, Coors. And she was really not technically a starter. So, the other thing, Jordy Ball was a great pitcher for them a couple of years ago. She entered the portal.
She went to Stanford, didn't she?
No, she went to Nebraska.
Oh, Nebraska. Oh, that's right. It was Nebraska.
One pitch away from making the World Series this year. But Jordy Ball is making a 6-figure NIL at Nebraska. And this is the thing. You take Najari Kennedy. Now, they announced this week they're starting a pro softball league. They're starting with 4 teams, and they're not even designating a home field for this. They're going to be traveling, touring this year. And then they said next year. And by the way, several greats from the last 10 years at OU, there's like 4 or 5 of them that are already signed up to be part of this. You might see pro women's softball.
Yeah.
You might see it really.
Well, it's funny. I have gotten into female collegiate sports.
Yeah.
And my wife just, like my wife will watch basketball, NCAA basketball.
The women?
The men.
The men. Okay.
She won't watch the women. She will only watch OU softball because it's OU.
Yeah. I
have gotten into the WNBA, female collegiate basketball and softball. There's just something different about it. To me, it's still, what was the movie or the book, For the Love of the Game? There's a film out or a book called For the Love of the Game, and to me, women's athletics right now, except soccer, in America, it's really blossomed, and there's this youth to it, and where they're in it. Forget the NIL, even though they're paying some of these people a lot of money. You can still see these girls just love playing the game. It's still for the love of the game, not the love of the money.
Yeah.
Especially you look at OU, where they're not paying all that money yet.
Right.
They will, I guarantee you, especially after this year, when they lost to Texas Tech, who's paying $2 million to their pitcher, and Pat Mahomes is, all of that kind of stuff. Well, they're going to have, all the OU alum are coming in. So don't worry, it'll happen. But still, despite all of that, there still seems to be this love the game. We play because we love the game.
Oh, there's so much energy and passion with women. And it's just the temperament and makeup of the women, how they approach things different than watching the men's baseball.
Right. And America's soccer is going to be revived. I think, what's her name? The lesbian mess that ruined America's female soccer team.
Rapinoe.
Rapinoe, yeah. She did more damage to that league than anybody else I know of.
Right.
I mean, it was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because she turned so many people off to it. And you saw what happened to the team.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Saying, but she's gone.
Yeah.
They've got the old energy back. See, she was, I don't know if you knew this, I was reading these articles, but she was actually leading this movement against certain players because they were heterosexual.
Exactly. And you saw it with the way Caitlin Clark was treated
in the NBA, WNBA, right.
Yeah, it's a hate. It's an intolerance.
It is intolerance. And here's the funny thing too. And sometimes I wonder if they didn't do this on purpose, but Caitlin Clark has this hamstring injury as well. And she's been out now for 2 weeks.
That's a slow recovery on that one.
And so, and today they're supposed to play the Chicago Sky, last time they beat them really bad.
Yeah.
And because of Angel Reese. Angel can't hit a layup Reese. Anyway, but if Caitlin's not there, nobody's going to watch.
Right.
And they're seeing this. They tried to pump up the new young lady. I can't think of her name right now. I don't have it in front of me. From Connecticut, from UConn, Beckers, Kate Beckers. I pronounce it Bukers, but they say it's Beckers. Anyway, she's at Dallas now, and they're trying to make her into this big star. But they like her because she's not this. What would you say? Billboard for heterosexuality.
Are you talking about the UConn player?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She's good.
Good friends with Caitlin.
Yeah. They're actually good friends.
Yeah.
But see, what's so bad is the media and that whole gay girl mafia is so bent on destroying Caitlin Clark. They don't care if they destroy the league to do it. And honestly, to be honest with you, Caitlin Clark has been offered, I think, something like $20 million to play in Europe.
Yeah.
If she would go to Europe, and she hadn't done it. I've written on Facebook on her page, one of the pages they dedicate, go to Europe. If they're going to keep being stupid here, you go to Europe, let this league get near death before they wake up and realize we've got to change our ways. That would be the greatest way for them to wake up and smell the roses. If Caitlin Clark finally said, I've had it, I'm done, I don't want to play in this league, I'm going to Europe. We had a young lady here back in the 90s, in the late 90s. And I can't remember her name. It was a black player for Cassia Hall. And she was this highly touted high school All-American. And she ended up going to Duke to play. She got recruited by Duke and went there. Anyway, and I met her mother and we talked. And her mother told me that she won't play in America. She ended up in Europe playing. And she wouldn't play in America because of the lesbian monopoly, the lesbian mafia in the WNBA.
Yep.
So this young lady, one of the best players in America, refused to play because of and see, here's the deal. It's not just that you would have someone, it's not about sexual preference, okay? It's the attitude that comes with it. In other words, they're bent on, we're going to change this. We're going to turn everybody into this, or we're going to have our way, or we're going to bring this forward and so forth. And you end up coming out as this nasty, obnoxious biatch. Okay.
A South Carolina player.
Well,
no, I mean, they won. Remember that Caitlin lost to South Carolina her last college game, and it was a pack of lesbians.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lesbian coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
we're proud of it. Yeah. So that's the problem that you have. And I believe until you start having principal athletes say, we choose not to take part. See, there's no better way for societal change than the pocketbook.
Yeah.
That sadly, I mean, that's what you got to do. If these number one draft choices in football, baseball, basketball, hockey, no matter what it is, would just say, I'm taking my talent elsewhere.
Yeah.
We're not, and you need a group of them. You can't just have one here and here. But if the top players all just said, we're not putting up with this stuff.
Yeah.
We're not going to ban somebody from playing the game if they're gay, because they've got game. They're able to play. But see, it's the other way around, where they will act. They are more bigoted against the heterosexual than they are the other way around.
I was explaining this to my son-in-law, black man, and they were over the other
Not
day.
a boy?
No, he's a man, believe me. Man I respect greatly. But I'm trying to explain this to him. He's trying to wrap his head around it. And I finally said, remember all the pushback against Willie Mays playing baseball because he didn't fit in.
Mm-hmm.
That was the term they use. And they're using that same term towards Caitlin Clark.
I think you mean Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, that's right. Jackie.
Mm-hmm.
He was the first.
Right,
yeah.
he was the first.
Yeah, Willie. Oh, he was the outfielder. Yeah. But anyway, that's just it. Nobody defends the attitude that says Jackie Robinson's going to ruin the culture of the sport.
Right.
But they're saying that about Caitlin.
Yeah.
The thing is, she's the one making them financially viable.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And it's not her, it's the people who want to watch her.
Right.
They're the ones.
Yeah. In fact, it was seen immediately. They had, sold out arenas, no longer sold out because Caitlin Clark's not there.
I'm telling you.
People turn their tickets back in.
Patty Gasso recruits great teams, and she builds team in them.
Right.
And, as David Arnett, when he was in a couple weeks ago, he said it's a faith-based program.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in-your-face program, but they are people of character. She builds character. She talks about the audience of one, do everything as unto the Lord.
And the players are openly Christian. They're not afraid to give their testimony.
Right.
And
they're not in your face about it like the lesbian women are.
Right.
But this thing, people like watching them.
Mm-hmm.
They genuinely like them.
Again,
they're likable people.
Right. They're likable and they're good.
Yes.
See, that's the main thing. The first thing you got to do is be good.
Yeah.
You can't. I mean, I hate to say it.
It's like Larry Norman said of Christian music is Christianity is no excuse for bad music.
Yeah, exactly. Why should the devil have all the good music?
Yeah,
right. That was his album. But anyway, I love OU softball and the spirit behind them. But I was very happy and thrilled to see Texas Tech go all the way.
Eddie, you got to be proud of your Texas Tech school. They are a class operation.
Yeah, and what I've seen, too, with just watching the girls, it seems it's that same kind of spirit and attitude, just humble, but yet vibrant, happy. And see, this is what we don't see in male sports anymore. You have phenomenal running back, receiver, whatever, and somebody scores a touchdown and everything, they just run off to the side and nobody does anything. Whereas when you watch softball, somebody hits a home run or they make a great play, all the girls just get excited and they're all excited for one another. It takes you back to the team sport aspect,
Yeah, but when OU commonly after a game, the girls out there on the field join hands in prayer. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times the Christian girls from other schools come over and they invite them in. Yeah. That's like the Reggie White impact on the NFL.
there are a lot of young women. A friend of mine, her daughter, I was talking about softball, and so I wouldn't let my daughter play softball because it's nothing but lesbians, but it's time that we reclaim these things.
Yes.
And just like the soccer league, U.S. Soccer League, and it's going to take, or may have taken, I hope the turnaround is with us, but it sometimes takes getting your butt whipped to see that you can't keep behaving like that, and you can't let one player like Rapinoe dictate the entire. The stupidest thing Megan Rapinoe did was when they went to they played in England.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're playing in England, and she stood for the British "God Save the Queen," but knelt for the American national anthem. And I'm thinking, now this is the epitome of stupidity.
Yeah. Because
the British are the ones that brought slavery to America.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
They were the original slave. Well, Portugal was the first ones to bring slaves out of Africa, but England made merchandise off of it for many years, the big companies. And so for her to be so stupid to not know, it shows it's not about the issue. It's about making a statement against your country.
Yeah.
You're not a patriot.
Yeah.
You're not only not a patriot, you're the opposite. You're an insurgent.
Now, the NFL did something probably worse because they're playing at Wembley Stadium, and it's the Baltimore Ravens, and it's the New England Patriots. Okay. And they're doing the same standing for the British thing, but then not going to stand for the American.
Right.
A song that's written about Baltimore's fight for their own independence. Yeah. And
it's because they're stupid. They're not intelligent people, and that are running this. And the top people are as liberal as you can get. What's the commissioner, NFL commissioner?
Oh God, yeah.
What's his name? Everybody boos every time at the draft day. Every time he shows up, they boo him. But he is the one who ultimately dictates what happens.
Yeah.
And it's all about money because these advertisers want to increase for some reason in their mind, they think gay people will bring more money to their business than the straight people.
How'd that work out for JCPenney?
Well, exactly. or Target.
Yeah.
Target's, I don't know what it is other than you have gays that have influenced and entered into leadership positions in some of these corporations that do this. But it's like, this is something, man, I'm jumping all over the place, but military intelligence is rife with gays. Okay. Now we have given our probably most important department of the military
to Bradley Manning.
Well, way beyond him now, but this has been going on for some time. Okay. And I'm convinced that somewhere back there, somebody got the right idea that this is how we eventually take over.
Yeah.
By putting people in the,
trying to get rid of a little buzz that's coming in my ear. I don't know if your headphones are doing it. Okay. It's probably headphones. Just my headphones.
It's your cheap headphones.
Yeah. No. Hey, they were $5. Come on.
They're not like these $250 ones. I have one. No, but this is a plan.
Yeah.
It's an insurgent plan by the homosexual lobby and committee to basically turn America, and it's beyond gay friendly. It's gay preference.
Yep.
You got to have a gay preference.
Got to be like them. The
right.
intolerant ones.
And push them over and over. I think we talked about it a few weeks ago about the AIDS medicines being advertised on TV. Why would you need to do that on TV? Mm-hmm. You don't need, I mean, how many gays are out there with, you don't see them advertising hemorrhagic fever. Yeah. Hemorrhagic or malaria medicine, where there are cases occasionally by people bringing it in and so forth. Those, if you've got it, you will seek out the help for it. Yeah. Okay. But I see it more than an advertisement for the medicine. I see it more as an advertisement to try to normalize the lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Oh, they're just one of us. They just happen to be, look at these two guys together, just in love, loving one another. And they even hang out with women. So anyway, we're way beyond. I wanted to move from that. How do we get from softball? Yeah. Softball championship. Anyway, we tend to do that. The other thing is, I'm getting the buzz now. Yeah. I didn't have it before. Anyway, there you go. I don't know. It was your mic. Oh, leave it alone. There you go. It's quiet now.
That's to do with fluorescent lighting.
Okay. Anyway, the Panthers, Florida Panthers, and the Edmonton.
Yeah, boy, what a tough, well-balanced.
Both games.
Both went overtime.
Yeah, and the first one went overtime. Or was it last night when Edmonton scored the tying goal with 30 seconds left?
I think 18 seconds.
18 seconds, and they end up taking it into, and it went double overtime.
2 overtimes, yeah.
And then Brad Marchand ended up scoring that beautiful. I mean, he just got it, and I didn't realize how fast he was.
So it's tied 1-1 now.
It's tied 1-1.
Series.
Yeah, the series is
and
tied.
Where have these games taken place?
In Canada.
Yeah. Well, okay. If you split on the road, you're okay.
Right. That's what they did in the last series. They lost the first one, won the second one, and then won 2 at home. Yeah. So it was 3-1 when they went back to what was it, Toronto, Montreal, one of the two. No, it's Carolina. It was Carolina. But anyway, so that's a lot of the sports. That's the NHL. Then you got the Thunder. Mm-hmm. I don't know what happened there, how they let them come back.
They were leading the whole game until the last half second.
Yeah.
That's when they fell behind.
Yeah, let the guy make that game-winning shot.
Well, they were outscored 13-4 in the last 3 minutes. 13
right,
it
was 3 minutes. Right, in the last 3 minutes is what they just fell apart. Mm-hmm. You're throwing the ball away, taking inappropriate shot. See, I was at the first game between Denver, and I thought there were bad coaching decisions that caused them the loss. Because, and maybe it was the same here. I don't know. To me, it's because it was the same thing happened there. They were ahead of Denver in that game that I went to. They were ahead by like 20 some points, and then ended up losing.
Eddie, I tell you what, NBA anymore, I don't even watch the game till the fourth quarter, because it's like, it doesn't matter. The real game happens the fourth quarter. The rest is just, I don't know, wear each other down,
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Steeler now.
No. Oh, yeah, you're right. He is Steeler. He was Jets. Yeah, so the Steelers picked him up. Honestly, I think he's done. You know what he's doing? He wants to outplay Brady.
Okay.
Tom Brady played until he was, 42?
Yeah, something
42,
like that.
43. And I think Aaron Rodgers is just trying to hang on as much as he can. But, Aaron, I'm sorry you're not Tom Brady.
Well, he's injury prone. You hit 40, the bones are more brittle, right? Less forgiving. Brady is a health food nut. I mean, he is. Is so.
Boy, he still looks great. I mean, the guy looks really good.
He's really tight with Joe Rogan. He's been on, pretty frequently. He really got involved. Actually, he was a big Bobby Kennedy supporter. Rogers was, and then he followed, Kennedy into the whole Trump "Make America Healthy" thing, and. Aaron was one of those that really bucked this, cancel culture during the COVID era, because he was not gonna.
No, right.
I
agree.
Boy, did he take flack for it.
Yeah, no,
you got to respect him on
right.
that.
No, I do like that about Aaron, but there's certain other personalities, situations that he just always seems like he's always angry. And he tends to blame others for his lack of success and this, and that, and I just don't like that. Whereas Tom Brady remained quiet, and he might have been a jerk too. I don't know, but he never displayed that publicly,
Yeah, that's true. Maybe Brady didn't have as much problem with Roger Goodell. But I'd probably be pretty hostile if I had it.
Well, see, Roger Goodell is who I was speaking of earlier.
Yeah, the NFL commissioner.
Yeah, he is one of the most liberal, progressive people. And, he married, his wife is. I can't think of her name. She used to be on Fox. Oh, Janet Skinner.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Jane Skinner. Yeah. She ended up marrying Goodell, left Fox. Because, Goodell's making, $60 million a year now or something like that.
Doesn't he own the Saints?
No, the commissioner can't own a football team.
I think he came from the Saints program or something.
Oh, that I don't know. I don't know about it. But,
okay.
But I think he's overpaid and underperforms.
But 20 years ago, people had problems. He's been there about that long.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and the audiences are always booing him. I mean, he's not a popular person, so I don't know how these coaches keep nominating and voting for him as the commissioner.
This so-called black national anthem, like being black is a nationality.
Lift Every Voice and Sing is the name of the song.
Yeah, but they call it the black national anthem.
Oh, no, I agree.
And it's just... It's pandering. It's racist.
Yeah. I mean, no, honestly, I've thought about this. If I were Hispanic or Asian, I would demand you let us sing a Hispanic song.
Yeah.
A Mexican song.
Right.
Because we're part of the nation.
Well,
Native Americans. Or American natives.
American Indians. But Hispanics make up a much higher percentage of American population than blacks.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So why not? And honestly, I would, if I had any influence in the Hispanic community, I would say I would demand we're able to do it. Either you get rid of this black national anthem or you allow us to do it. Yeah. And Asians need to have an Asian national anthem. Native Americans need to have it, just because it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Back in '96, I remember I was doing an event for Pat Buchanan right before Super Tuesday. And a couple of those journalists need a ride to the airport. And I'm giving this guy a ride. And I asked him, he's an AP reporter. And I said, why is why is the media so left-leaning? He said, well, I'm a Columbia graduate, which is the top journalism school for decades, right? Pat Buchanan actually is a Columbia journalism grad. But he said, first of all, Columbia is in New York City. So what do you think it's going to be? A lot of these things need to get out of New York City.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm watching yesterday morning, 9:00. I'm watching news back to 8:30, and they're covered, wall-to-wall coverage of Bernie
Sanders.
No,
Bernie, the police commissioner. Bernard Carrick.
Yeah. That's municipal news. That's not even state news. That's municipal news. And they're making it national, global news coverage.
Fox was doing this?
Newsmax.
Oh, Newsmax, yeah.
And I'm like, you guys, get out of New York.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Paul Harvey was smart enough to be in Chicago, not New York. You get a better sense for the country when you're not in such an idealistic, extreme environment.
Right.
And New York is that.
Yeah.
Why do you think Madison Avenue, all the big advertising firms, and you wonder why the gay agenda is controlling so many advertising budgets? You
Well,
know?
it's either New York or LA.
Yeah.
One of the two. Hey, I want to try something. Shut your mic off a second. Yeah, it's your mic.
Still hearing the buzz.
I'm not.
I'm hearing it.
Oh, now I got it. Just now.
Yeah.
Test.
It just goes back and forth.
Is it mine?
Let's see. Yeah. I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah. That's weird. All right, here, maybe let me move this way.
And I'm going to. It's that one.
Oh,
I'm not hearing buzzing.
you're right.
Yep.
That's interesting.
See, you
Okay.
still had this one up.
Yeah, but I had it
Yeah, I don't know.
on mute.
But somehow.
Yeah,
Well,
no, I agree. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Hey, let's move to something more
How
national.
about Elon?
Yeah, there we go. That's what I said. The feud. The feud. Okay. There are mixed opinions on this. Is it real or is it fake? Are they really feuding or are they? I kind of have a theory somewhat, but every time when I think that, then it seems like it's getting a little nastier. But Elon, Tesla sales were plummeting. The stock was plummeting. He was having real issues with that.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, is it possible that Trump and he got together and he says, Elon, you know, you got to get back to your business. And
Yeah.
so they started this feud to win him back his left supporters. And so I don't know. That's a part of it. But then I hear some other stuff that happens. And then I wonder, well, maybe it's for real. Maybe it's just.
Dr. Drew Pansky talked about it yesterday. He's very concerned about the manner in which Elon Musk is conducting himself. He goes so far as to think this may be mania. This is the erraticness, because it is erratic.
Yeah, it does seem to be that way. Yeah.
And he, you know, again, any good doctor or psychiatrist will tell you, you do not diagnose based on what you see somebody do on the air. A lot of people could have, said that about what was his name, Martin Sheen, not Martin. Charlie Sheen. That looks so much like classic mania, bipolar mania. But I don't want to diagnose him that way. You saw it with Kanye West. Same kind of erraticness.
Yeah.
And you're under pressure and you just, but to me, what set it off is, and I'm kind of with Elon on this, and I don't think Trump defended him enough, but what started it was when he went through all that work. I'm here to help you. Yeah.
So we set up Doge. And then you got these Republicans in the Congress who were, we're not going to do that. And Trump didn't defend him. Trump basically backed off or allowed Congress to back off on Doge. Out of the billions, if not trillions of dollars that could have been saved through Doge, I think we ended up with, several hundred million.
No, Elon, I tell you the narrative on that, Elon way over made claims he could not substantiate. Remember, he's saying $2 trillion we can find in savings.
I believe, Elon. Yeah.
And now he's saying 150 million. Same guy.
I haven't heard that. Last I heard, he was saying, actually, in fact, last thing I heard was $3 trillion that he felt they could find.
Okay, well, then we need to dig this up.
Yeah, dig it up because I have not heard him say that. And I think that was the first thing when he was not defended, his project Doge was not defended, is when it seems that he started turning. And I just, so I'm with him. I think that there are masses of fraud, waste, and abuse that have taken place and are still taking place. And Trump is trying to appease. And you know me, I'm all in for Donald Trump. I mean, I'm a huge Donald Trump supporter. But
no, it says here, the Department of Government Efficiency, led by Elon Musk, has estimated savings of 150 million to 200 million from fraud and waste.
Right, that's what they anticipate. But Elon's still sticking with $3 trillion.
This is the department he heads up, is saying that. He was head of DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. And Elon early on was making claims of about $2 trillion.
$3 trillion, right.
Right.
So, yeah, but okay, the department, but who's running that department?
Elon selected those people.
I think he selected the people that are working, all of the young guns. But yeah. I'm still not buying it. I'm thinking anytime you put the term department, I'm a little skeptical.
Well, it's not a congressionally established department, right? So this is a Trump ad hoc committee kind of thing. Right. Trump administration, and he put Elon in top of it. Now, the other thing,
read that again. Read again what they say.
Sure. All right. The Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, led by Elon Musk, has estimated savings of 150 billion to 200 billion from fraud and waste reduction in the federal government. Oh, yeah.
Okay. That's what they've already done.
Yes. Now, there's votes calendar scheduled this week from the House on rescission, taking money back out of departments that's already appropriated. That's part of the Elon agenda, but that's only 15 billion.
Right. But see, he has not been allowed access for them to fully do their job. I'm sorry, but I believe, and the savings, the $3 trillion was not this year, right now, yesterday. Okay. It was I believe it was over the next 10 years or whatever.
Oh, well, yeah, if you say that.
Well, no, but from what you're saying, there's still $3 trillion and 100 and some billion there's a large difference there. Okay. This is one of my favorite times when we argue. Yeah. No, but that I think is the thing that initially got Elon going, is the fact that they were not respecting his desire to cut. Now, there's another thing. What is the other thing? They have a big issue with something there. Oh, I can't think of it right now.
Here's where I think what really split those two guys up is the big, beautiful bill.
Yeah, there you go. There it is. That's
really where things got off the track.
Right. That Elon thinks it's still got too much pork in it, pork and fluff.
Yes. No, he's not the only one saying that. Members of the Freedom Caucus, actually, your friend of mine, Josh Burkeen, was saying the same thing. Senator Rob Johnson in the Senate, Thomas Massey, Rand Paul. Now, Rand Paul is actually sounding very conciliatory. He says, I like the bill, but I like it even better if we can improve it. And I mean, it's still putting us further in debt. The argument for that is they say, look, when your court's correcting, too radical a shift in autonomy can sometimes do more damage than a gradual adjustment.
Right.
Because you leave people hanging in such a way that it's going to cause more damage to our economy.
We cut some this year, and then from that, we cut from that. In other words, we go from here to here, and then we go from here to here instead of trying to go from here to there.
Yeah.
Which, Chip Roy and some of those guys are wanting to do. We just need to cut out, and you're not going to get that.
Right.
It's like the old thing Mark Wayne Mullins always saying about what he looks for in legislation.
Yeah.
If he can get 70%, he's happy.
Yes.
But you got those diehards, no, we want it all. And then what do you get? Nothing. And so, because you get 70, and Democrats will do that. Democrats will take 50% and then come back 6 months and get another 50% and then another 50%. And when you get done, you've got over 100% from your initial desire. So, but we've got people in the Freedom Caucus, I think, that are still.
Yeah. By the way, Elon he promised $2 trillion in cuts, but his department only found somewhere between 150 and 200 billion. Yeah.
But I don't think they weren't nearly done. In fact, there were certain areas they wouldn't even let them in still.
Oh, yeah. Some of those fights they won a battle this week on Social Security Administration, having to do with, getting, data on some things. But Elon said this early on one of his first joint press conferences in the Oval Office. He says, look, we're moving fast. We're uncovering things. And sometimes what we think we're seeing, we can be wrong, and we will be wrong, he said, but we will correct it right away. Elon doesn't play that watching game of just cover up and hide and, don't admit anything.
Exactly.
But no, I'm disappointed because I was looking at, if you find $2 trillion in savings, we don't have a budget crisis.
Right.
And I'm disappointed to see it drop to only 10% of the savings that he initially.
Right. But Dave, that's where we are now. How long has Doge been in operation?
Yeah. It's just, what was he using as a basis? Saying we're going to find $2 trillion. I think he said he found $2 trillion.
No. He was saying that's what they were going to find. He couldn't have found $2 trillion because they hadn't finished their.
Then that's just an empty promise, is all that is. But he said $2 trillion.
Right, and from his prognostication on the things he has been involved in, PayPal, Tesla, SpaceX, etc. I'm riding with Elon. Okay.
Yeah.
I think he's right. I think listen, I would bet you anything there are $2 trillion in fraud, waste, and abuse that we could save. But the real problem is you don't have representatives that are willing to give up their lobbying money or the lobbyists' money that they're getting, their investments, whatever it is that they're getting paid from. Oh, yeah. Because how can you go there with $100,000 net, what do you call it, net asset or net value? Who and then end up with $13 million. Now
you're getting onto something here. Somebody once said the same way the NASCAR drivers have all these patches all over the coveralls, wishes he knew who owns who in the Congress.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, with John Sullivan, you knew whatever the pharmaceuticals want, they got from John. With Bridenstine is whatever the military industrial conference, whatever they wanted, they got.
Yeah. See, what I think is going on with Donald Trump is that he was getting so much headwind in all the things he wanted to do that someone got to him, or he finally woke up one morning, maybe Melania rolled over in the night and said, honey, do you think that maybe we're moving too fast? And maybe he realized that, I don't want to go through what I went through last time, just battling for 4 years to get anything done. And I think he finally said, okay, this is something I can kind of back off on, because he wasn't only being attacked by the Democrats. It was this mutiny in the Congress on the Republican side that basically said, well, we're not going to vote for this.
Well, he had Paul Ryan. He had to deal with John Boehner, that whole team. But he finds out that...
Well, wait a minute. Ryan and Boehner.
Paul Ryan was Speaker of the House when Trump got in.
But he's not there now.
I know that. I'm just saying you were referencing what he had to deal with before.
Yeah, but I'm talking about even now, what he's got to deal with now. He's got people now that the people in New York, Maine, the New England states who just basically refuse, we're not going to do this.
Well, see, and this is where I completely disagree with Trump on. He wanted to reinstate what's called the SALT deductions, deducting what, you pay in state taxes, state and local taxes.
Right.
And that's basically you and me kicking in more to cover for overspending in California and New York and, all those. I don't think that's right. But Trump, for whatever, and I think it's politics, he wanted to win some more swing states.
In New York and...
Yeah, he went for it, Well,
I'm sure.
And it wasn't just winning swing states. It's also winning seats in Congress, because he did get some seats in Congress that, were tough, and you have to defend them and hang on to them if you can. He's dealing with very slim majorities.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And he can push and push and push, but ultimately he's stuck with whatever. First of all, in the budget, it has to originate in the House. That's the Constitution.
Right.
And whatever, and he won the House vote by 215 to 214.
The Senate's tougher.
He feels like this is the best he can get. And if we don't pass this, the tax cuts from 8 years ago expire. And you've got all kinds of issues. But there are people, far right people, Josh Brecheen, Rob Johnson, Rand Paul is saying, this will not fix it. We are not prescribing a fix that gets us on the right path.
Right.
Now, Kevin Hearn, you and I had coffee with him and talked about this. He wrote a proposal that it was highly regarded, that it was a 10-year path. And he couldn't get his own conference
exactly
to back him up.
There's the problem.
You're herding cats. And they're all owned by lobbying groups.
Right. There you go.
But what we're seeing going on with Elon right now, he's putting out there unsubstantiated rumors that Trump was one of Epstein's list people. I know that. Yeah, stuff like that.
Some of that stuff.
Okay, that's the part that I think, Elon, you're losing it.
Yeah, that's his mental issues. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that.
And this is sad.
Yeah.
Is so sad.
Yeah.
Elon's not going to recover himself and be the darling of the left. That won't happen again.
No, right.
And plus, I don't think Elon regrets at all being the champion of free speech that he's become globally.
Mm-hmm.
And he still needs Trump the same way Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg are kissing up to Trump. He says, you got to protect us. The EU's trying to shut us down. They're trying to control us.
Yeah.
They don't want to be controlled. They need Trump to stand up to these people. Elon needs Trump to stand up. It's in our best interest to stand up to these people. This is unfortunate. Elon just needs to take a couple weeks off and find his center, and I don't know why it got so personal, and I don't think I saw anything from Trump.
Well, it's so weird because it turned on a dime, because remember just 6 weeks ago, Trump bought a Tesla.
Yeah.
And they're out there, talking about that. And then all of a sudden 2 days, 3 days later, all of a sudden this starts to.
Yeah, this is only 48 hours. As we sit here this morning, it was Thursday morning, things went off the track.
Yeah.
And
so that's what I'm saying. Some people are saying that this is a faux fight. I don't know if it is or not. It seems pretty bad, but listen, we'll survive. We'll survive. I think Trump, I think too, or another thing, Trump has taken away SpaceX's pretty much monopolistic.
I don't think any of that's happened yet. They're talking about it.
Right. I thought it's already happened. But anyway, these are all things. Elon said, well, wait a minute. Now you're messing with my money. I want to stay ahead of Bill Gates and Apple.
It was months ago that Trump said, we got to phase out this tax credit for buying, sustainable energy vehicles. And he didn't lose Elon on that. Now Trump is making it sound like Elon is just mad because he's losing his little, pork cutout.
Right.
And
but see, Tesla's so much bigger even than the EV market.
Yeah. I don't think Trump did himself any favors by saying, oh, he's just mad because he's not getting his slice of the loot,
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know.
But yesterday, I think Trump was like really trying to not egg this further. And I think maybe he's got it like Drew Pinsky saying, Elon may be having a psychotic break here, a manic break. And I don't know. I mean, I know a thing or two about that because I've cared for loved ones and I've been called in helping, other people because I have some experience in it, how to communicate with people. And you de-escalate, you ratchet it down. You don't, one up them.
You could do like that South Park episode.
What's it?
Sit down and shut up.
Yeah, anyway. So I don't know. It's a sad thing. We're not seeing the best in Elon, nor are we seeing the best in Trump.
Right.
And but I think you and I agree we've got to have austerity in our finances.
Oh, sure we do. No, I agree. And to me, this is more of an issue of Elon versus the Senate or the Congress than it is Elon and Trump. And the problem is that it's kind of like this. Oh, I'll use my dad instead of me and my wife. Okay. So my mother told me something and I didn't like what she said. And I knew I was right. Mm-hmm. So I talked back. Mm-hmm. My dad didn't like it. Mm-hmm. He hits me and tells me, don't you ever talk to your mother like that. I said, but I'm right. And he just said, don't ever do that to your mother. And so then later, he tells me, he said, look, I've been married to your mom X amount of years. You've only been in this house, 17 years because when you're went away, you left. Mm-hmm. I have to live with her. She's my wife. Mm-hmm. I'm always going to take her side. Mm-hmm. And so I think that you may be seeing some of that and that, and Elon, I mean, when he puts himself into something, he puts himself all the way in.
He does.
And that's Doge was his baby, mm-hmm. right? SpaceX is his baby. Mm-hmm. You're messing with my baby. Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden it looks like the guy who was totally on your side is now all of a sudden changing sides, or he's no longer willing to defend you. I think there's some hurt there. And that can trigger, and if you've got already kind of issues, self-image issues or issues of self-worth or whatever, where you would feel threatened. It's a hypersensitivity to those type of things. It's easy, boom, for it to flare up.
Yeah. No, this, the reason I say this is all started with the budget thing, because for a whole week now, Elon's been saying it. Elon started getting some traction. Trump has to respond to it, and stuff. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what else we got? Anything else?
Global news. Poland moved to right. They got a nationalist leader who's not going to kiss up to the EU. And it's largely about
to Ukraine.
Right. And it's largely about immigration force, the EU putting quotas on everybody, and Germany. In fact, Trump had the German new chancellor in while the Elon Musk thing was happening. It was literally at the same time. Trump is trying to work with him. Trump's trying to work with Canada, who has a globalist.
You got to work with him. I mean, you have to work with him to some degree, and you go so far. But this is my line. I'm not going any further.
Yeah, it's trade deals that he's trying to negotiate with all. He actually said yesterday, he says, I think we're pretty much there with China. In fact, he's got, I guess he and Melania are going over to Beijing. They're planning a trip. I don't think they're having that trip unless a trade deal is set.
Right. Going back to the whole deal of Europe.
Yeah.
What you're seeing now, you've got Russia, Ukraine, and then you've got Hungary and Poland with, like, what is it? The Czech Republic in between.
Yeah.
The two. And
Romania. Too.
Well, Romania south of Hungary. But we're talking that border Ukraine. Yeah. They're right there.
Yeah.
So now you got Hungary and Poland here. And I think if I'm not mistaken, Latvia. It's either Latvia or what's the other one up there?
Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. Those are the Baltic.
One of those is also starting to lean more to the right.
Yeah.
And say we're done with the Poland. I mean, with Ukraine deal too.
Yeah.
So if you lock all of this thing, everything surrounding Ukraine, all of a sudden says, "Hey, you're on your own on this." Then what you have is a buffer between Western Europe, Germany, France, Belgium, and the Netherlands, and Russia. You got in Ukraine. You got this whole buffer zone in between. So, I don't know. And in Zelensky with that. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about this. The drone attack.
Yeah,
we didn't even talk about that. They had drones go in and blow up all of these planes, all these Russian planes.
These are strategic bomber planes. The claim is 40% of Russia's fleet of long-range bombers. These are the B-1 style bombers. Yeah. And I guess yesterday, Kiev got their snot blown out of them by Russia. So.
Yeah. And here's what's funny to me. People will start crying and screaming about that happening. But are you serious? It's like my Fair One thing in Philadelphia, right? In other words, basically you're saying, it's okay for Ukraine to go into Russia militarily, blow up all this stuff.
Yeah.
But Russia can't. And see, the difference is Ukraine doesn't have military bases. Like everything, they're kind of like the Palestinian Liberation Army, the PLO and Hamas. They're in down in I guess it's Palestine, down south of Israel, whereas they embed their military with the civilian population. Well, if you don't have any distinct place as a military post or base to bomb, what are you going to do? You're going to bomb where the people are. You know, and we've got people here, oh, it's so terrible. They're bombing this and this and this. Now, I'm not trying to say that Putin is a wonderful, no, he's not. He's not. He comes out of a bloodthirsty culture from the communist regime.
Yeah, very paranoid.
Right. And so, but when you have that, don't sit there and try to run up, slap somebody, and then run back across you can't come across this line. You can't do anything over here, but I can do whatever I want to you. And he thinks, and Zelensky, this is what's so troubling. He honestly believes that he has the EU basically on his side. And so I can do whatever I want because these guys are going to cover my back. And I guarantee you that Germany, France, Belgium, Holland, and Spain or Italy, whatever, have said, yeah, we're with you. We'll back you. Forget America. We will take care. Well, these people can't take care of them. They're not going to. They can't even take care of themselves. So that's where he's fallen into the.
Yeah, Zelensky made one claim, that famous White House visit that melted down, is that the U.S. might want to start buying drones from Ukraine, because that's one homegrown industry they have now. And they've demonstrated the effectiveness.
Right.
So much so that American generals and, our war strategists say the next big war, drones are going to be a major part, because we saw how they were able to infiltrate into the interior of Russia and take out very unsuspecting military, Air Force installations. I think we've got to be very awake on this. This is something where it isn't the U.S. military at the cutting edge. We're trying to catch up with what Ukraine not only has figured out, but demonstrated. Now, having said that, all they really did was poke the bear.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 And the Western European guys, it just drives me nuts that they're that arrogant to think that they can, especially when Russia has China on its side now. Okay. And it just makes no sense.
Yeah.
So people aren't thinking, and that's just what
I don't
we gotta
think
do.
China trusts Russia any more than we do.
No, but they trust them a lot more than they trust Central Europe.
Yeah. On that issue, I still say what I did about our alliances, that NATO is something we need to be rethinking, because right now we are committing ourselves to protecting tyrannical governments, increasingly tyrannical, because when you see free speech being, it's ignored. What happened in Romania, when they have legitimate elections are complete, they don't like the outcome. They say, oh, that was interference. And then the next election, Prime Minister of France is on this big voting drive, and that's supposed to be illegal too, but that was helping the establishment.
Right.
So that was okay. So now Romania unseated a nationalist, a right-wing nationalist, and put in a left-wing globalist.
Right.
And you've got the same kind of thing happening in Germany. You see it happening here's what's happening in Brazil. A comedian just got sentenced to 8 years and 3 months for telling insensitive jokes in his stand-up comedy. A Brazilian comedian has been jailed for 8 years and 3 months for making offensive jokes in a stand-up special. A federal court in Sao Paulo said Leo Linz's work contributed to the spread of verbal violence. That's the key. Speech is violence. Yeah. And you heard that 8 years ago, the woke left on their campuses.
We're trying to use it here.
We're saying speech is violence. Speech is violence.
Yet when it's the left giving violent speech,
Right.
truly violent speech,
Right.
you ignore it, or it's freedom of speech.
Yeah, they said his material targeted Black people, the obese, elderly, those living with HIV, LGBT, evangelicals, indigenous communities, and the impoverished. So
He was hitting everybody.
Yes!
He didn't take sides.
Remember the famous line from what's the name? Larry Flint's lawsuit with Jerry Falwell. He says, I have one rule to my editorial department: offend everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is it. Because this is the slippery slope. We saw it,
it is totally,
with the media, the tech giants. First, they started saying bullying's bad, bullying's bad, bullying's bad. And then they started cracking down on, if you don't agree with Fauci on COVID policy, we're going to shut you down. Right? So they started censoring speech that didn't agree. And when you lose free speech, you lose all the other rights.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody once said the First Amendment and the Second Amendment protect each other. Without the First Amendment, you would not have a Second Amendment. Without the Second, you wouldn't have a First Amendment. But I think we got to get out of all of our treaties with tyrants.
Yeah.
And that includes Brazil, that includes England, that includes Romania, that includes Germany, includes France. And NATO needs to be replaced with something that's Eurocentric, with Euro's needs in mind, using Euro's resources to protect themselves.
Oh, yeah. They've been leaning on us and abusing it.
Yeah.
And we need it.
And it's created disharmony between us and Russia.
Yeah, see, we have now a closer relationship with the Eastern Bloc through Trump, Poland, Hungary.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about the Czech Republic, but and Slovakia, that's the other country. Mm-hmm. But and if you go up to Lithuania, then we've got the better relationship with them than we do with Sweden, Finland, mm-hmm. Norway, and the Scandinavian countries and Western Europe.
Yeah, Western Europe.
And so we're really, it's a realignment. It's a realignment, which is kind of crazy that we are closer to these former communist countries than we are than these so-called democratic West.
Yeah. By the way, the big thing, and Jeffrey Sachs, told Tucker Carlson, he says, Clinton made a commitment to Yeltsin and to Putin that NATO will not expand into the Eastern Europe countries. And there's a good point there. Mm-hmm. We went back on our word.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally.
But if you see what happened in Georgia, you see what happened in Crimea. That's Russian expansionism, right? Given that, why wouldn't they seek NATO? All
right, here's the way I look at it. Okay. And we're going to face this. I wrote this. I might have talked about this before, called, was it Visions of Kosovo? And see, and I wrote this thing about, it was 2028 and Chelsea Clinton now is running for president or becomes president or something. Mm-hmm. I need to move the date further because I wrote this in like 20, no, it must have been the 90. It was 98. Wow, that's scary. 30 years ago. Anyway, and what I talked about was this, that the way we got involved, remember how we got involved in Kosovo? Mm-hmm. We started bombing Serbia and taking the side of the Albanian.
Bosnians specifically.
Well, that's a whole different animal. Kosovo, it was a whole different animal. It was dealing with Kosovo and what happened. The Albanians that had moved in to Kosovo were taken over.
Okay.
And we basically gave it to them. Basically gave, and basically what whatchamacallit was trying to do, Serbia,
Yeah.
they were trying to preserve the old Yugoslavia. They didn't want them to break away, but they wanted to break away. So anyway, in the visions of Kosovo, what I was saying is that Mexico has brought enough Mexican Americans into Aztlan. Are you familiar with Aztlan? There's a group out there. Aztlan is California, Arizona, New Mexico, and maybe Nevada. I'm not sure. But, but anyway, they believe this all belongs to Mexico.
Yeah.
And there's a radical group out there that believes they're supposed to get this back. Okay. So in this thing I wrote, basically, let me talk to these people here, that Chelsea Clinton is now the president, and there's an uprising in Aztlan, California, Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico. Okay. They want to break free. They want to be considered their own country.
Okay.
Hispanic, because they're now the dominant language. They have the population that has outpaced the rest of the demographic. What do we say about them wanting to do that? When we went to Kosovo and basically defended the ones trying to break away from the former Yugoslavia. At that point, Serbia is who they were breaking away from.
Right.
So why was it okay for Bill Clinton to send our Air Force in to bomb Serbia and to protect these guys rebels trying to break away, if the same thing happened here in America? We have no right to say anything because we did the same thing.
Sure.
So if all of a sudden Mexico decides, or a bunch of Mexican people who have invaded our southwestern America, decide, we don't want to be a part of America anymore. We want to be independent. We don't have any right to say anything because we defended the right for Kosovo to break off. So we could lose 3-4 states just that quickly.
Yeah. Oh, easily. And, what happened with Crimea, which, historically was part of Ukraine, but let's face it, those are Russian folks, Russian culture, Russian everything.
You're talking about in Crimea.
Right.
Yeah.
In Crimea. Putin felt justified in doing that in the same way that Clinton felt justified in Kosovo.
Right.
Is he self-determination, autonomy.
Right.
The people, breaking down big nations into smaller, more autonomous nations.
Right. We've painted ourselves into a corner.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in the same boat here with Crimea because we basically said Kosovo has a right because it's predominantly Albanian speaking or whatever they speak over there. So they have a right to choose where they want to go. Well, Crimea, as I understand it, either a majority or a huge part of the population are Russian speakers.
Yeah.
And so, and because they let them in earlier, now all these people, now they feel closer to Russia than they do. And I honestly don't think Putin necessarily cares if Crimea becomes part of Russia, calls themselves Russian, but they're aligned with Russia. And the thing I really go back to, he's got to protect that sea over there. It's a phone. It's probably in the other room.
Yeah.
Or is it yours?
That's fine.
Anyway, I can't remember. It's not the Caspian. What is it? Oh, the Black Sea.
Yeah.
He's got to protect the Black Sea because that's the route they have to use to get into the Mediterranean to defend or do anything they need to do down there. And if all of a sudden you got NATO on the Black Sea,
Well, yeah, that's the problem, because let's face it. Let's go back to the tribalism that's under all of this.
Mm-hmm.
The Slavic people, the Serbs are Slavics, right? Czech Republic, Slovak, and going all the way up Romania, Hungary, into Ukraine. And Putin sees himself as the leader of the Slavic tribes. Whereas Kosovo, even Bosnia, I had a classmate friend in high school who was an exchange student from Bosnia. Man, I got an A in World War I and II class because of her. I mean, she knew everything. She was my kind of lab partner. We had to do reports together. And we talked about Marshal Tito and how he was able to put together Yugoslavia. Basically, the term means Greater Slavia, Yugoslavia. And once Tito was gone, that whole thing fell apart because half of it just about was Islamic, Turkish, those kind of ethnicities, very Middle Eastern culture. And the two just didn't want to get along. It was the dynamic personality and leadership of Marshal Tito that kept that together for Greater Slavia. And so since Turkey was an ally in NATO, I can see that was the first time we broke our word to the former Soviet Union, to Russia, when we said we're not going to expand. And we did. We set up Kosovo. And what we did was basically protect the rights of Muslims to not be under Christian religious rule, or, I guess, secular rule.
Right.
And really, that's where it's at.
Oh, it is. It is. And now, we find ourselves being hypocritical one way or another, because if we all of a sudden decide to defend Crimea, then, we're doing the same thing as we were doing before.
Yeah.
But if we don't, then we're kind of hypocritical because we did it for these guys, but we're not doing it for these guys. And it's just a mess, but they don't realize what they're doing. It's like playing Risk. They're almost playing Risk with real lives.
Yeah.
Which is scary, because it could lead to global annihilation.
The worst players in this, I'd have to say, is under Obama with Victoria Nuland, when they went in and the government that was more friendly to Russia in Ukraine, and Obama and the CIA overthrew it in 2014. And so as a result of that, the next year, Crimea got taken over. And I have to say, I can see why they did that.
Yeah. And it's the same as making up the story about Saddam Hussein in Iraq.
Yeah.
After we looked at it here 20 some years later, almost 30 years later, we realized there was no reason for us to have invaded Iraq.
How many nations were overthrown by the Arab Spring under Obama and Victoria Nuland and Hillary Clinton? That was the whole thing. They overthrew all these very stable Arab nations.
Right. Now I think
and
about it.
The biggest warmonger was the Obama administration, who won the Nobel Peace Prize before he took office. If that doesn't tell you how worthless the Nobel Peace Prize, it's as bad as getting a Pulitzer for telling lies about Trump.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop him, did it?
So anyway, I have to say it's the global warmongers, the military industrial complex, the neocons, along with this globalist left. It was G.W. Bush following right along between the Clinton administration and Obama administration, the same foreign policy.
Yeah.
and what do we have for it? We have a much less stable world as a result.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Well, we better wrap it up.
All right.
We're.
Yeah. So thank you, John Cox, for coming in today. And you guys stay in on it. This is going to be a big one. And I tell you, the really big one is going to be the race for governor.
Yeah.
By the way, Governor Stitt's really been having some. This is not the best Governor Stitt I've seen.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know what happened. It seems to have started when he decided to come out and support Ron DeSantis. That's where I see the pivot, and he was made to look so bad.
Yeah.
That I don't think he's really recovered.
Yeah. There was something came up between him and Pinnell because he pushed for this red license plate with the white star, and some Freedom of Information Act, they showed Pinnell was telling him,
don't do it.
Yeah, this was not the best design. I think it's the one the Highway Patrol wanted in law enforcement because it's a very identifiable license plate, bright red, and they like that. They like to identify, is that an in-state, or out of state? But yeah, he just had to put in a new interim commissioner of mental health, and that's a disaster. And this was something that 7 years ago, his wife campaigned and told me personally, that's the one issue I want to work on. And they left it to rot, and now it's a major, major embarrassment.
So put a finger there as a placeholder. Maybe we can talk about that next week. All right, everybody. Hey, God bless. Have a good week, and we will see you then.